Welcome to another episode of You Crack Me Up. Dr. A here with Dr. B, the migraine doc. If you're watching us, then you'll notice my little title today is Champion of Normal Nervous System Function. Boom.
I didn't have anything cool to put in mine, so mine just says my name. Every time it says that, it's like sub whatever optional. I'm
Well,
like,
you could put yours says the migraine doc as your name.
hmm I just
Are you
again,
changing your name?
that's how everyone knows me.
That's true. The migraine doc. It's got
Yeah,
a ring. It's got a ring to it.
I started putting that in my sign off on my emails. I'm like, you might as well know who I am.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't know, now you know.
I'm excited about this conversation we're going to have today. What we're going to be talking about, I don't know if this will be the title, but this is what I'm going to say. Healing healing heaven does not exist.
All right, Alex. So what do we mean by that?
Well, what do we mean by that is we will never arrive at this paradise, nirvana, heaven, whatever you want to call it, this perfect place of picture perfect, beautiful health. It doesn't exist. And I think of like when I wrote this and I said this, you know that the Mean Girl, the movie Mean Girls, and
Yeah.
she's like, the limit does not exist.
Oh yeah.
You know
I
what I'm talking
I
about?
don't know the movie. Yeah, but I know the quote.
You know the quote.
Very
Yeah.
meme culture.
hmm Yeah, the limit does not exist. So that's what I'm thinking of when I say healing heaven does not exist.
That's actually a great meme for a migraine thing.
It,
How many
it,
people can you help who struggle with migraine? The limit does not
the
exist.
limit does not exist. Exactly. And she says it like right, she's trying to get the answer in her mathletes competition or whatever, and then she's like, the limit does not exist. And so it comes in the form of like this, I know the answer. It's the epiphany and I'm going to win. And that's how I feel when we think about this concept is healing heaven does not exist. Because if your patients are like mine, which I know they are because we help like pretty much the same exact people, um, we often can get into this mindset and this perpetual cycle of and we can almost get borderline obsessed with trying to like achieve this picture perfect idea of health, like whatever that means for us, right?
Well, I think culture nowadays, again, we're very into biohacking. It's my least favorite term.
Yeah, I don't like that
I've
term either.
I've fully moved into Andrew Huberman's amplifying. Like there's things that amplify. And so I'm like, hey, there's things that you should be doing that we know we need to be doing, and then there's amplifiers that we can add in. But I think we live in such a way that we want to hack, we want to try and I think where we're coming from is absolutely the right place. Like I get what you're wanting to do. I know where you're wanting to try to go. I get that you're wanting to maximize what it is that you can achieve. But I think the reason I love this is because I think there's really two main things. It's the same old cliche of healing is a journey, not a destination. It's not really ever a place that you come to. If this is the first episode that you listen to, please go back and listen to some of the other ones, because Alex and I share a lot of our personal stories that I feel like I repeat on every single episode. But I know in my own like healing myself emotionally and through my own anxieties and traumas and all this stuff, like it's it's been such a growth thing, but then it's also changed me so much that sometimes I have days where I'm like, I wish I could just go back, because there's now an awareness that I have that changes the way that I look at everything moving forward. But it's another one of those reminders of exactly what we're talking about. It's not perfect. Like there's going to be days that are amazing and they're the best day that I've ever had. And there's going to be days that are rough and not fun and they're a struggle. Like I heard someone say the other day, because as a business owner, like one of the things that's a struggle in the beginning is like, well, I just need money. Money will fix everything. I think there's this underlying thing, even when it comes to trying to, you know, heal yourself and go through all this. Like if I had more money, then maybe I could just go find the expert or the right person, or I could travel to another country and get this, or be able to do that, or that again has made a lot of money. Is like money only solves money problems. So if you have money problems, it will solve those. But if you have emotional issues, if you have other health issues, if we have other things going on, if we have communication problems amongst our family or in our relationships or anything, money is not going to fix those things. It's not like my marriage is falling apart, so money's going to come in and it's going to fix it. Like that's not how that works. And I think we have this idea in our mind of like, oh, well, if I just had more of this, then I would be able to get this. And I think when we do that, it's exactly the point of this episode is it's another thing that you tell yourself that keeps you from just going, what steps can I take today to get me just a little bit closer? Because I'm on a journey. Like I'm not gonna dream my life away waiting to get to some destination that doesn't exist. Like what things can I tangibly do today that will actually help me become the person that I'm trying to be or try to get where I want to go? Because if you're anything like me, I'm like, what's the thing that I can do that can get me from here to there, but like right now? And typically, again, that thing does not exist. So for me, that's why, again, I think we talked about our words for the year. Alex's is simplify. Mine is patience. So I'm trying to teach myself that it's okay to slow down and be a little bit more methodical about what it is that you do. But what I would ultimately say when you're trying to go through and solve that is, like I said, there was two parts. There's the, I got to get to this perfect place. And then when I have all this stuff, when I have enough money in order to do this and enough time, then I'll eat right and exercise and see someone to help me with my nervous system and get this thing figured out and go do this. But there's also, I don't think there's a perfect place when it comes to seeking out someone like Alex and I with what we do. Like, I don't say we're the end all be all place. I've got lots of other places that I work with that I'm like, part of what you're going to have to do is work with these other people. Part of what you're going to have to do is be willing to do some of the work on your own. Like, I don't know about you, but I'm not really usually willing to work with someone that I feel like isn't willing to do their half of what it is that we're trying to do.
Yeah, for sure. I think you hit on a few different points. I love that money is not going to fix any problems except for money problems. Like that right there, like
That for me was big.
full stop. Wow. Because I know people think that I have that mindset sometimes too.
Yes,
If
we're
I
all
just
there.
had this or if I could just do that, then I would feel X, Y, and Z. And I think that goes into like we're talking about healing you have to fall in love with the healing journey, not the destination. And we usually talk about that regarding happiness, right? Like happiness and feeling happy is a feeling, joy is a state of being.
Mhm.
And happiness is not a destination because how many times do we lose the weight, we do the thing, we get the promotion, whatever, we get the money, and we're still not quite happy like we thought we would be. There's still something missing. And so,
You just beautifully reverse engineered your point is the journey to get the thing that you want is always more fun than actually getting it. Because think about how you're like, okay, I did that. Now what?
right.
Okay.
And
Like I got the
mhm,
car. Shit. Now what's my
yeah,
next goal? I made
right.
this much money. I fix it. Now what's the goal? Like that's sort of where I'm at with what I've been doing. It's just like, man, I used to just like spend day by day. This is the work that I had to get done and do this. And now my life has changed in so many different ways. And so it's just like I feel more emotionally in tune with certain things. So sometimes it just makes the days a little bit more difficult when I'm like, what did
Mhm.
I do before? I woke up, I came here, I would do it like, and those days just like went. And I'm like, I don't live my life like that anymore.
And I know we talk a lot about tracking your health wearing, with some kind of wearable like a Whoop or a Fitbit or an Aura Ring or an Apple Watch, whatever the case, whatever you have available to you. I have a lot of patients that will get very, I don't want to say addicted or obsessed, but it becomes a hobby. It becomes obsessive to try to increase certain numbers or do certain things. And I think that's what goes into this too. And it brings me to my first point that we're going to touch on in just a second. Um, we can get lost in trying to do this one particular thing to make it perfect.
Hmm.
And we lose the sight that we're human beings and we are completely responsive to our environment. And this is the first point. Your ability to adapt stress is what equals your status of health. So those
Hmm.
two are directly, they have a direct relationship. Very strong correlation there, right? So
Yeah.
if we are able to adapt stress, which comes from our environment, our internal and our external environment, if we're able to adapt that at a high level as optimally as we want to, then our health is going to show that. If we are not in a state where we're able to adapt stress, then our health is going to show that, i.e., symptoms,
Mhm.
right?
Which I feel like we've done an episode on that. A whole, I don't think symptoms are, I don't think we can label symptoms as a bad thing the way that they typically are. Of just like, hey, I have symptoms, I want to get rid of them. I think there has to be a shift behind that of like, symptoms are just signs that something is going on. Um, Golly, I just had a thought based off of something that you said. That you said,
Well,
and I was
I agree with you.
like,
Symptoms are
I
a
had it.
sign, and we tend to label symptoms as like, well, I think symptoms have a connotation that they're always bad. And I would love to shift that language to not good or bad, they're neutral. Symptoms are just neutral because all they're there, that's how that's your body's language. And when we can learn to speak our body's language fluently, and we're able to have more body awareness, and so we can see the signs that our body is showing us, and a symptom could be something as easy as like, oh, I'm feeling a little more tension in my neck today.
Mhm.
It's not like you have neck pain, it's not gonna stick around, but maybe you've become aware, you can tell, like, your body's just filled with more tension, and maybe that equates to you have a big meeting coming up, or you have a deadline coming up, or you had a really tough conversation with your kid or your spouse, or, whatever the case, like, and so that makes sense, and then we can say, "Okay, I'm feeling more tension, my body's feeling this, what can I do to show myself some TLC today so that I can help my body integrate this stress?"
We also have to be so aware because one of my favorite books, again, I've recommended this for a lot of people, is Your Body Keeps Score. You have to understand that cycles of things are just, that's the way things function. Your body also will go through cycles and remember anniversaries. Like it could be simple, your body can feel it, but going through a stressful time, coming back around and going through that again, even though it's not, you have to understand that you can still have some of those things and be like, man, why is today a bad day? Why am I in a bad mood? Why am I hurting? Why is my neck like this? Why is my indigestion off today? Why am I feeling super anxious? And know that that is also a part of your journey that you're on. The I get that we're trying to work towards a destination. I want an end goal that we're trying to work towards. Ooh, that's what it was. Okay, I got it. Whenever you were talking about earlier, being able to adapt, this is why I always say balance is overrated. I think harmony is actually the word that we should put it towards, because balance actually, so think of like a teeter totter. If you were a little kid and you got to ride teeter totters, super fun. I can remember doing that whenever you're little.
A
But
seesaw.
yeah, a seesaw, like you literally have to sit there and like go back and forth, and that's how you can make that thing move. But if it's just you by yourself and you're trying to keep both sides off the ground, then guess where you're always at? You're in the middle. You're never fully committed to one thing or another thing. Well, that's what balance is. If we're looking at a scale and it's like, well, it's always about my business, or it's always about my health, or it's always about my family, like, how do I do that?
It means one has
Harmony
to.
amongst all the things that I'm doing. Correct.
Sorry, you sk Garrett,
I think,
Markovus. Your internet skipped,
yep.
and I thought
I
you
think,
paused.
uh-huh. And then I heard you go and I was like, shit. Anyways, somehow we'll edit this back in. But yeah, harmony, I think, believes again, there's multiple things, multiple facets, whatever that looks like for you, and they're all working together, as
I
opposed to I can't really commit one way or another because I'm balancing everything.
I like that analogy because when we think of a teeter-totter or a seesaw, it means one's falling through the cracks because you can't focus on it. Whereas in harmony, it's something isn't you're not having to balance, you're not having to say, "Oh, I can't do that right now because I'm doing this." And this will actually tie into my last point that we have today for this episode. Harmony is more of I have all of these buckets and I just need them all to be full, and I know how I can go about doing that in my day. And so right
Mhm.
now I'm filling up this bucket because I've already filled up this bucket.
We also have more, by the way, so don't go anywhere. I know she's talking about final point. We have like other stuff that we want to share, so don't go anywhere. This isn't like a super short episode. You're like final point, and people are like, "Oh, okay, this is gonna
No,
be a
when I
short
go
one."
when I go into my final point, which is not right
Okay, okay,
now.
gotcha, gotcha.
Uh-huh.
I want to ask you. So, as a mom, do you feel that now more than ever?
About balance and harmony.
Uh huh.
Yes, and before I give that answer, I want to thank our sponsors for this episode.
Okay, fine. We'll get into that. And I have a story I want to share.
So I want to thank our sponsor for this episode, Green Chef. They are excited to offer a new level of flexibility to their customers, our listeners, us as humans and individuals who use Green Chef. You can, in addition to swapping the protein that they already give you, things like chicken and beef and salmon, you can now swap them for, this is my favorite part, USDA certified organic ground beef, chicken, and wild caught sockeye salmon. So a huge level up when we're talking about, if you're like me, you just if you have the means and you can choose to do something organic, grass fed. It quality matters when it comes to certain foods. And at the end of the day, as long as we're eating something good, nutritious, not with, 100 ingredients in the label, we're doing a really good job. So I don't think you could go wrong here. But I really love Green Chef because it does give you these options that you can choose, just like you would at a grocery store. So you're not confined to just picking a certain meal and then you get what they give you. You get to choose. You can also add chicken or fish to select vegan and veggie recipes each week for an added protein boost. Um, Not to mention, my favorite thing, of course, giant flexibility in the meals that you want. Everything comes pre-portioned, right? This is my favorite thing
Mhm.
because I don't have to buy a giant bottle of something I'm going to use once. They send it to me in little packs that I'm going to use all of for this one specific meal. Um, and so they have really high quality ingredients, saves you time, which I love, and saves me money because I'm not having to buy a bunch of stuff that I'm going to use once and then will go bad.
So, as you guys always get to hear, you know that for me, we love these types of services. So, Green Chef being able to order food, have it delivered to your house. We don't have to go out to the grocery stores all the time. It relieves all the stress off of my wife, which then literally changes my life because she always stresses out about what to feed me, how do we feed the kids, what are we going to do? Oh my gosh, we have to go shopping. And for us, I think you mentioned it, but the food waste that was going on in our house all the time was always frustrating to me. Like, end of the week, we need to take the trash out. It's time. So what are we doing? We're going through all the drawers in the bottom of your fridge. When you were in the mindset of going to the store and you're like, I'm gonna eat healthier this week. So I bought green beans and carrots and broccoli and Brussels sprouts and all these things. And guess where most of them ended up? Was in the trash, unfortunately. And I'm like, great,
Oh,
that's like 20, 30, $40 right there, depending on what we got. And it's like, I hated doing that. So just like you mentioned, when it's already pre-portioned, it comes like this. I don't have to have 20 big bottles of all these things that I don't really need all the time inside of my fridge. I literally get the things laid out. For me and my wife, it's almost like something that we can do together. So if it's a stressful night, we've got to kind of break up, like me helping with the girls and being able to do this. We know what the instructions are, what we're doing. Like everything is super laid out, because I don't know about you. My family didn't have these, like, hey, come in the kitchen. I'm going to teach you how to cook. We're going to go over these things. Like, I never really got taught that. So I kind of learned how to make sauces and different things. And now doing this stuff, we have way more stuff, I would say, in our tool belt, to where whenever we'll go to a place, I'm like, hey, let me show you how you can make this special sour cream. It's really crazy. You just put lime juice in it.
yes, we love Green Chef. We use it, and because they're sponsoring our episode, we get a discount code to give to our followers so that you can try it. So go to greenchef.com/YCMU60 and use code YCMU60 to get 60% off plus free shipping for your box. So that's greenchef.com/YCMU60 and use code YCMU60 to get 60% off plus free shipping.
Green Chef, the number one meal kit for eating well.
Bada bang. Okay, so now to answer the question about balance and harmony. Fortunately, I had that mindset and perspective pre baby. However, everything changes when you have a giant identity shift, right? Like, and I would say not just becoming a mom or a parent, whatever that looks like, but like if you were to get divorced, if you were to like lose your job and have to get a new job, if you had to move cross country, if somebody you love passes away, like whatever the case, right? We all, or you had a big scary diagnosis and you that you had to heal from. Like all of these are very life transformational events, so they make they make you confront what your life looks like, and things either can get really clear. Well, things will get really clear, and oftentimes that results in things getting a little bit muddy for a while because your priorities shift, right? And so I think having this perspective of harmony is really important because it allows you to not feel like you're failing all the time. I think that was the biggest thing for me. I can't yeah, balance is, I think, a myth, and harmony becomes really important because it's not, I see harmony like a spectrum. Like, how am I doing, and how am I doing in just managing all of the things that I need to manage versus like what's going really bad and what's going really well.
Hmm.
One's more focused on me, and one's more focused on me, and one's more focused on what it looks like on the outside, I feel like.
One's
Like, ba
more proactive, one's more reactionary, I feel like is how you could say it.
yeah, I like that.
One
Mhm.
gives you the ability to look at it this way. Like you said, it's like buckets. It's easy to go, hey, this bucket's kind of low. I've done well with these. If I can maintain and fill this bucket back up, because again, let's just put it in the perspective for you. We have your health, we have your business, we have your child, and we have your husband, and then we have any sort of social life if you would like to have one of those. And now, if we're going to balance that, we have all these things teetering around, and you get to stay in the middle, but you can't really commit to any of them. So,
Right.
like, Clay gets a little bit, Georgia gets a little bit, your patients get a little bit, and then you're probably like, well, I'll lean more towards these. My thing can go closer to the ground. It's okay. I'm not really that worried about it. Like, I hope this resonates because this is how a lot of people live their life. Like, when I hop on a Zoom or have a patient come in and we talk to them, I feel like we live in a world where we've created this paradigm, and I don't think that exists.
Mhm.
Because again, here in a minute, whenever you're ready, I got a story that I want to tell with a just a patient interaction I had the other day that again for me shifted the perspective because I don't know, as a dad, I just look at things a lot differently, and I feel like in decision making, I look at things differently. And I think from a mom's perspective, and sometimes from a female perspective, it's very different because my wife is constantly educating me on the ways that she's feeling and what it is that's going on, educating me on what mom guilt is and what that looks like and what it feels like and how it can, wear her out some days and make
Yeah.
her feel less than sometimes. Like if you had any experiences with that, I would assume, or know
Yeah.
exactly what she's talking about or can relate to.
Yeah, I think, our society today doesn't really set us up to have all the resources and everything that we need to have regarding how babies and kids are supposed to be taken care of. I know in other societies, they say it takes a village, and it does, because you have an auntie that's focused on the cooking, and so that the mom can sleep if she needs to, or if she's taking care of the kids. Then you have another person that's cleaning, and then you have another person that can, take the kids for a walk. You have another person that's going out and getting the food or making the money to provide. Like, it takes a lot of people in order to, what we know regarding brain development and secure attachment and all these things. It's really hard to do it as a single mom, single person.
I don't know
Uh,
how single parents
I
do
don't
it. I
either.
do not.
I
I
don't, because it's hard
I
enough to do it
don't.
with a partner, and then when you're a woman in our society, in our culture, and, you know, homemaking or staying at home gets a side eye to it, and, women are supposed to be just as fulfilled by careers as they are, at staying home. So sometimes we try to do both, and yeah, the mom guilt is real, and I think that that's a type of stress, right? To continue on with that first point, our if we're paying attention to what our bodies are telling us and what the signs are, what our symptoms are, neutral language, not necessarily bad or good, but are the icky, tough feelings that we're having, whether that's coming in the form of like a depression or anxiety or rage or irritability or, freeze, like we're sleepy all the time, we're tired all the time. Like, is that a day, or is that becoming a string of days
Mhm.
into weeks,
Well, is
right?
it
Like,
becoming a pattern? Like, are we creating
exactly.
something that is repeated?
Mhm. What's your story? Was it
Well,
around
but
that?
it sort of is, and even when you mentioned something, I saw this on a friend of ours, Ella Quill, so she listens. Shout out to you. You can actually go check her out. Her Instagram is Your Mom's Cairo. The guy who came up with that name is smart. I really like that name. If you can't tell, that was my idea. I helped her.
Oh, that's
I
funny.
helped her change that because she was, again, that's who she works. She works for moms and kids, and I was like, "How funny is it that your handle is like Your Mom's Cairo?" Like that's such a. I'm like, you can make T-shirts, you can do a whole thing around it. But she has 3 kids that are super young, and she shared this post, and it said, "Shouting self care to people who actually need community care is how we lose people." And I think it's
Mm,
very much
that's really
a
profound and accurate.
oof. I think we could do a whole episode on that. Garrett, can we write that one down too? Big Daddy over there, can we put that one down? Because she said 100%. She just wrote 100% because I love when people share something and give a little bit of context from them in that. So she posted this on her story and she goes, telling a mom of 3 under 3 to just take an hour for herself is like telling a firefighter to leave a burning building and go take a nap for an hour.
100%
That shit is
accurate.
not
Mhm.
possible. Like you cannot do it.
No,
And
and in
so
fact, that adds more stress to a mom when you tell her that
and all
because
you have to
now
do
she
is
just feels
say,
shamed and not heard.
yeah. Well, and how dare I not take time for myself? When the fuck am I supposed to do that? And so I think the easier, again, let's talk about tangibles and like, okay, then what the hell do I do, doc? Like, how am I supposed to do this? Hey, give me the baby if you're cool with it. Go do this. Hey, what can I do to support you? What can I do to take this on? What things can I like, especially again as a team or as a community? Like I always harp on this. It is so easy to post up a suicide awareness phone number or a hey lost a friend because of this, and like you want to create more awareness and you want to make sure people know and you want to create a place where people feel like they can talk about this. And I really hope this conversation is like, I know publicly we're all having this conversation, it comes up on social media, but if someone ever reaches out or if you know someone's in that situation but it's uncomfortable and you don't like step into that, that's the problem. Like, I think I've shared this story before. Like, I've gone to friends' houses on weekends late at night randomly because I've seen something and I know something's off, and like been at their house and we're probably there, with them for a majority of that night, making sure that they didn't make a rash decision in that moment to try to a permanent solution to a temporary problem is what I typically say whenever we're just like, I just want to be done. Like, I know, again, it's hard to even say that or when we talk about it, but when some people go through a lot of rough times, it's easier to say, hey, it would just be easier if I wasn't here. It would just be easier if I didn't have to go through this. It would just be easier if I wasn't in pain all the time. It would just be easier. Maybe it'd be easier for my family because I'm the one that's always causing the problem. Like, these are the thoughts that go through people's heads, and I don't really think as a community, a lot of times we're there for one another through like our really shitty times because dads are supposed to never show weakness and just look like, they've got all their shit together. And moms are supposed to look like they do everything perfectly, but effortlessly. Like you just effortlessly look like that on your Instagram and you effortlessly put all this stuff together and you just effortlessly put all those lunches together for your kids that are very complicated while other moms are like, I got fucking lucky that I could throw a damn, uh
Lunchable.
uncrustable, yeah, I threw a damn uncrustable in there and a banana and was like, I love you on a note and did that. Like, listen, if that's you, like, we see you for sure, but know that there are other people that see you, but like you got to make sure that you reach out, you've got to talk to those people because suffering in silence with this stuff is where those problems happen. It's where that voice sneaks in, it's where you start doubting yourself on certain things, and all you just need again is the community. This is why I harp on patients all the time of like, fortunately I feel like, I mean, I'm sure you hear it all the time. Like, I'm a full time nervous system, upper cervical care chiropractor, but I'm like part time therapist. I like talk to them about all sorts of things.
Yeah.
And some days I just get the feeling of like, I need to sit down and talk with them for a second. Like, I can just get this vibe and this feeling. And I'm like, hey, is everything okay? Like, what's going on? I have patients that are like teachers and they're having issues with students in their class and they feel like that student's not supposed to be in their class. They should be in a different one. And that wears on them because they can't do what they love to do because all these other kids get ignored because they have to focus on this one kid or a couple kids.
Yeah, and I think those are really intense, deep, valid, important points. And in my perspective, it's a symptom just like what we were talking about. It's this obsession with the destination.
Hmm.
with arriving. Like we're talking about healing heaven doesn't exist. Like yeah, you could neither just like this easy place of where you just don't have to deal with anything ever again for the rest of your life. Like
Hmm.
that's not what reality is.
Rich people
And
deal with problems. Healthy people deal with problems.
it's all hard. Getting up to
Hmm.
go exercise when it's the last thing you want to do is hard, but also feeling really bad all the time because you're living in high inflammation. You're carrying too much, you know, physically, mentally, emotionally, like it's because you think you just need to knuckle through it. That's also really hard. But one of those I would say has long like, harder long-term repercussions than the
Hmm.
other one. But it's all hard. It's just like, which hard do you wanna do? You have to figure out you have to choose your hard, and that's why I think it's so important for this mindset shift of understanding here's the second point, you're never going to arrive.
Hmm.
Like, complete let me burst your bubble, your balloon, whatever reality you're living in of, like, "If I just did X to get Y, and you get why and you feel like you arrive, it's not it's like you're still going to have problems. You're still going to have symptoms. If you've reached one level of health, guess what? There's an entire other three pillars of health: your spiritual health, your emotional health, and your mental health.
More money, more problems. That's
Yeah,
literally that's
literally.
any of those things can literally start to lead you down this route. The other thing I wanted to say with that is sometimes you just have to like again, in all honesty, Alex and I love to just give you guys permission for things. Sometimes you just have to say fuck it and do what you feel like is right. Like who cares what society says? Who cares about this stuff? Like sometimes you have to do 100% the thing that you know that you don't like you're fighting against it. Everything is literally telling you that, but you're going against that. Sometimes you just have to be like, fuck it. This is the route that I'm going. This is what I'm doing. I'm making this decision. I'm making this change. Because a lot of time we worry way too much about the external and not enough about the internal for you. What
Yeah.
is it that you need? What is it that you have going on?
We talked
Because
about
that's
that
where you end
last
up.
Yeah, we talked about that last episode where we get in a very reactive position, which kind of goes into this balance, balance versus harmony. We get very reactive and we have to wait or we tend to wait for that internal pressure to build so strongly that it overcomes the external pressure, right? Where
Hmm.
we get forced like we can no longer currently live in the state that we are. It's so bad, right? Whatever that looks like. And then that we wait for that internal pressure to get so strong that it no longer matters what the external looks like who we disappoint, who we who we make happy, how much it costs, what we need to do, what it looks like we stop worrying about those things because now we're just in a giant dumpster fire, right?
Well, and this is where anxiety comes from. This is where IBS can come from. This is where reflux can come from. This is where like all those emotions, like you should know it's not just a symptom, like those are also feelings, like what she's talking about, or it's like, you know, I'm starting to get my feelings up to here, so let me just get stronger and push that shit back down to go with it right now. It's like that's what she's talking about. Like all you're doing by pressing that down more, it's not going to go anywhere. So it's just going to continue to eat and rot away and continue and create problems, which is again, sometimes I know when we talk about this stuff and it's like, yeah, but you said this, but then also this. And it's like, I know that's because there's not one right way to do this. What we're
Right.
trying to do is guide you here and also give you the freedom to be like, who gives a shit? Like, if you offend one person, nobody's ever going to remember that. It's very unlikely that that thing is going to be like, God, that thing just ruined my life forever. It's like, it's not going to ruin everything. Whatever you feel like the repercussions are, that's not going to be the thing. So, before we drag this out too long, like I said, I want to share a story. We had a patient that came in the other day and she came in because she was having sleep issues, but of course when she walked into the office I have my like the migraine doc thing that's on the door, and of course she's dealing with sleep problems, but guess what she's also dealing with? She's got migraine issues. And she comes in and I actually didn't have the interaction with her. Dr. Micah, who works in our office, did, and we were just kind of talking about everything that happened afterwards. And one of the things that was going on was you have to understand sometimes where people are coming from and realize sometimes You just need that one person. And sometimes when you end up in the right place, like I think sometimes people come in, they want to sit down and do all this stuff, and then they just want to go back out and continue making the decisions that they're making rather than making the changes that they're looking for. Like when someone sits down with me and is sitting across from me, I know you didn't end up there by accident. You like did your research, you've looked at this stuff, and whatever it was, there's a big enough of an issue going on that you were like, hey, I need to make a decision. So this woman again, we got all sorts of sleep issues going on. We're thinking it's potential apnea, but again, it's creating problems, horrible migraines, gut issues, tons of problems going on. She got all these issues. She has a chiropractor that she goes and sees. She said stem cells done. She has all like again, you're sitting there talking about a lot of things that I would recommend. She's done all that stuff. But to be honest with you, I don't think they're actually doing her a service of benefit because she's been going to them for a long time, probably doing the same things over and over, and it's really not getting her any better anymore. But that's the place that she sort of gone to and trusted, and maybe it gave her like a little bit of something here and there, so she keeps doing it. But that familiarity and the just like, well, I'm going to keep doing this is there to keep doing it. But one of the things that we talked about, because I was like, well, what was the big issue? And she was like, well, I need to go talk to my husband. I can't make this decision. I was like, boom, that's it right there. Mike is like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, she feels guilty. If she decides to do something with us, if she gets an exam done, if she does any of this, her immediate response is, I'm making a mistake. I'm making a bad decision. This is going to be another one of those tests that I have done. It's going to be another person that we spend thousands and thousands of dollars with, and I'm left no closer to where I'm trying to go. Like I get that there's no healing heaven, but there also are people along the way that are going to help you on that journey to amplify you and get you there faster. That's what we're talking about in our role of what we're trying to create. And as soon as she said that, I'm like, that's immediate. Like, of course, she's not going to make a decision right now because she feels the guilt of when I do this, it's just another thing that's going to be over my head. And her husband may not hold that over her head. He might. I don't know their relationship, but she feels that. So it's whatever she's feeling as she's going through that is like, I'm going to do this again. And I'm terrified that I'm going to make a mistake because I've screwed this up so many times before.
For our listeners who also have that mindset, which I know it's a lot of patients, right? That have that mindset because they have tried everything and stuff hasn't worked or it's, only provided temporary relief. How do you what advice do you have? How do you overcome that?
So for somebody who's gone through that situation basically and like, hey,
Who
what do
for
I
this patient you're talking about, that's her current circuitry, like, that's her immediate response. She's been offered help. It makes sense, it makes logical sense, but she's having an emotional reaction to it because of all the past stuff she's tried. So what advice do you have for people who also feel that way? Like they're not worthy or deserving enough to like try again to spend more money or
yeah.
because of the idea that it's not actually going to work.
So this is the thing that gets interesting because again, when you come from a place of like Alex and I, there's selling that's inside of that of like I need to help and convince you to show you what it is that we can do. But I would say for those people, you've done your research, you've looked at it, and I get it. Like it's going to be a hit or miss, and you've been to places that have fantastic results for everyone else, but you're always the one again, you're like the one person. Like I have a patient that I'm working with from a distance right now that she went to some clinic for migraine that's like their protocol has worked for every person. They've never had a person not get better. She was the one person that has not. She's like, in her brain, that's the thing. She's just like, I'm just destined to be like this. I don't want to make any mistakes or waste any money. I think you have to know. I think that gut feeling that you get, the vibe, the energy, the spirit, the whatever it is, that feeling that you get, you have to know. Like patients probably in my office when we're going over their health history cry probably 80% of the time. And again, let's just throw that out because I don't know a number on that one. So I'll just make some shit up and I'll give you that 80%. But I keep tissues in my office. We keep them in all of our offices because guess what? There's a lot of tears that are shed in this place. But that's because people get the feeling of hope again. They're like, oh my gosh, I think I finally found a place where somebody would be able to help me. So when you're going through that situation and you're in that place, let's have a little bit of discernment. And again, I already told Mike, I was like, I'm going to follow up with her later and talk to her and see if there's anything that we could do because I want to be able to help. But she's like, I'm getting ready to do this gut test now and I'm getting ready to do this thing. Like, it's this. And I'm like, we're grasping at things at this point. And if we feel like we're grasping and getting desperate, let's just take a step back for a second and look at this and make sure that this makes logical sense. So I don't even necessarily know that I would have let her make that decision that day unless she really decided, like, okay, I think I'm going to give this a shot. But I think it's making sure that if someone's trying to help you and that what they're saying makes sense, then allow yourself to be able to go down that process, because a lot of times you feel like you're making a mistake. So you create the resistance to something. And again, you don't do that when it comes to a lot of other shopping experiences when you're talking about making an investment into something. Like, you're probably not going to do that for a TV or for a phone or for a car or for a purse or for these things. Like, yes, we all have that like wallet remorse of like, I got my wallet out and I did this. But I think when you start to see, again, it's one of those, I have to commit up front so then I can start to go down this journey so that I can see the changes that I'm looking for. Because most people think, again, I here's the example I would give you is if that was me, I'm like, okay, let's just say, what's the worst case scenario here? And if I ask you what's the worst case scenario in that, it's like, you don't do what you said you're going to do. You literally just take my money and I don't get any better. And most people would say that's the worst case scenario. You guys already know I've talked about this. If I don't see the changes that if you follow my recommendations 100% and I don't see what I expect I'm going to see and I don't deliver the results that I promised, I'll give you your money back. But you have to follow everything to a T. You have to be committed to this. As soon as you do that, that's null and void. Like, you're the one who made that decision. But when we think in our brain that's the worst case scenario, that's actually not the worst case scenario. The worst case scenario is actually that we do nothing now when you were so close to the finish line. You were so close to that, like, I can't even say finish line. You were so close to finally taking that first step because again, another mentor of mine that I watch, he's like, almost anything could be learned and you could be really good at something with 20 hours of work. Like, if you put 20 hours of work into learning something, posting videos on YouTube, doing a podcast, doing whatever, like, yes, it takes more from there, but it takes about 20 hours of work to be able to do it. But most people spend years doing the first hour. Like, it's just that first hour of, you don't want to suck at it. You don't want to do any of this. So it's making sure in that first, like, you were right there and all you needed to do was do that. But what's going to happen is when you were in the mindset to finally make a change and do something different and you didn't take action, that means we're going to go back into another cycle, and it's going to be 2 weeks, 4 months, 2 years. You're going to have a really, really bad migraine flare up. You're going to have something going on and it's going to remind you of this interaction. And you're going to be like, man, I really should have done that whenever I had the opportunity. And in those 2 seconds, you're going to be like, yeah, but again, it's too late now. I'm too far gone. I'm too whatever. Like, we have all these weird excuses and things that we get in our head that keep us from being able to achieve what we're trying to achieve. Because I think, again, there is, like we've said with this, there is no absolute ideal perfect, but to go in what I have right now in this moment that I'm literally living in this day that I got this opportunity to take 5 more steps forward is still moving you closer. But to just kind of sit where we're at and not be moving, like, literally we feel like we're stuck in mud and your tires are just spinning and we're not going anywhere. Dude, we got off track. What happened? How did we get here? So it's
Yeah.
actually not making a decision and staying in that place is what I think is actually potentially the worst decision, because then it's going to lead you right back in this loop. And it's like, how long is it going to take for it to come back around again for you to make yourself the priority?
So it sounds like your answer to the question was the mindset of you always are doing, like, as long as you're doing something, you're taking a step, then you're learning something and you're not necessarily going backwards. It's the cost of inaction that will actually land you in a worse place than if you actually did something and maybe it wasn't the right thing, but now at least you know it's not the right thing, and that's getting you closer to whatever the next goal is. And I think is that
You put the
yeah.
perfect term on it. It's the cost. It may not be money, but there's a cost for
Yeah,
not
there's a
doing
cost,
something.
right? Mhm.
There's a exchange there that's occurring of just like, well, I'm just going to keep doing this. And it's like, if your home and your fire alarm is going off and we know that this place is on fire, but we just go, I'm going to go over to the fire alarm, pull the thing out, take the batteries out and put it back there. That's better. You're like, that's absurd. I would never do that. That is absolute insanity. But we do it with our bodies all the time. Every alarm is going off inside, especially, I mean, Alex, when we deal with patients with neurological issues, they have every symptom. Like I have neuropathy in my feet and I have toe pain and
It's every body system, right? That's what I like
every
to
body
say.
system. It's like my
Mhm.
indigestion's off and I get this zinging electricity up my butthole
Mhm.
sometimes. And like I get all these random things. It's just like, oh, geez, what was that? Okay, I'm fine. And it's like, we just ignore them rather than, I hope that one really stuck out to people. It's like everyone's had that. You're like, whoa, what was that? Okay.
Mm.
But I think in today we're trained to like just ignore it. Like you're not again, you're not tough if you don't just put up with that for a little while. If you don't just ignore it for a little while. It's like ignorance leads us down a road where when we are on this path we don't know where we're going because I'm ignorant to the map that I'm following. Like we
Yeah.
didn't set any distance, so I don't know where we're going.
I think the tricky thing about this whole episode and what we're asking our listeners to do is challenging because what we're asking is for you to hold two opposing ideas in your mind at one time. So there's going to be some cognitive dissonance there. There's going to be some tension and some resistance because what we're asking you to do is say, yes, I have a goal and I'm going to take the steps to get there, and also know that I'm never actually going to arrive at this place where I'm 100% perfect in every single category across the board.
Just because the place doesn't exist doesn't mean you still don't go on the journey.
Right? Because the pursuit is worthy. Our endeavors, the pursuit, we're deserving of living a life as of happiness and joy and good health and longevity, right? And so every step that we take will either get us closer to that place or take us farther from that place, right? Because at the end of the day, we're just the sum of our choices and our habits are just choice daily moment to moment choices that we're making, and you can see the trajectory of someone's life, and life doesn't stop, right? Reality doesn't stop, so maybe we will get to this like our version of picture perfect physical health. But guess what? You still have to manage your relationships.
Mhm.
You still have to work for a
Yeah,
living. You
how's your
still have
marriage?
money.
How's this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You still, and that's the kind of the source of most stress is other people, right? Like you still have to function in society, which is stressful. And that's going to always bring up certain symptoms and certain signs because again, all symptoms are is that's how our body communicates with us, and our symptoms are a sign of how our body is adapting to stress, which most of the time comes from external sources, our environment, the environment that we're in. So that's again, just to reiterate, that's why healing heaven doesn't exist. It's not that we won't heal from our migraines, or heal from our digestive issues, or heal from our anxiety or depression. All of these things are absolutely we can heal from and never encounter again.
Mhm.
However, that doesn't mean we're going to reach this place of never having any other signs or symptoms or a flare up or whatever the case, because that's not how life works.
Mhm.
So the juggle is, yes, you are absolutely worthy of this pursuit to be healthy, and I hope you do take the steps. And that brings me to my last point that I was talking about in the beginning, or kind of in the beginning. We've talked about it before too. The pursuit is not perfection, it's not healthy, it's whole. The
Mhm.
pursuit is a wholeness. And that goes perfectly with our this harmony conversation we're having. We may not be in perfect health, but we're feeling whole because we know we're doing what we need to do. We're in integrity with ourselves and aligned with ourselves and our decisions and our choices that we're making because we're on the right trajectory. We're on the right path. We're taking the necessary steps. We said yes when we were really scared, but we did it and we said yes. And now we're getting help. We're getting the right help that we need. We've got the right people on the team. And we're not there, but we're on the path.
Yep. I I would also say just because whenever you brought up a point, I was like, again, this resonates with Alex and I as a business thing, but it should also resonate with you on like the journey of whatever problem we're trying to solve. Again, we talk about point A to point B, and you were on this path, and we knew in the map where we were trying to go. But if you're honest with yourself, the reason that you got off track is because you thought you were going to take the back roads you were trying a trick, a shortcut, a hack that was going to get you there, and it actually slowed down your progress and slowed everything down and actually made it take longer in order for you to get there. And you were like, well, shit, I got to turn back around and get back to the highway to get me there, because I knew that was the best route, but I thought I could shortcut it with what I was doing. Somebody told me that because of this thing that they sell, like, get you one of these and this will fix it. And you're like, all right, cool. Like, we chase these shiny objects. Like, look over here,
What
look
is
over
that?
here.
Is that
It's
teeth?
no, it's literally like Sarah's like lipstick, and I think
Oh.
it's like a,
You're
it's
just
like
you're
a.
just holding that up for an example.
No, I'm just holding this up literally as an example of, like, people will literally flash things at you,
Got
and
it. Got it. Got it.
we're guilty of this too. You know what'll help me never have to be able to work that hard is if I do this thing, like shiny object, shiny object, shiny object. This shiny
Totally.
object will fix everything, and it's running to the next thing and running to the next thing. When instead it's like, I know exactly what path I'm on and I know exactly what I'm doing, but I'm going to be patient enough to get there,
Right.
because right now I'm riding my bike, but I came across Alex and she showed me where I could get a motorcycle. And then on that journey, then I met Dr. Brandon, and he showed me where there was a place to get cars, which I found out I could get there, but actually stay dry and be comfortable and listen to music. And then from there, I met Dr. Micah, and she told me about this thing called an airplane. And I was like, holy shit, I drove 14 hours to do this, but the airplane got me there in 3 hours. Like, there's things like that that can exist along the way. There are
That's
people who
good.
can help amplify that. But most of the time, if we're honest, it's like, let's chase these little things that throw us all over the place. And again, I share it because I'm guilty of that. I've done lots of that stuff. And I think that's why I love our podcast, is because have we ever tried to sell you any of that little goofy shit? Like, hey, it's this is the thing that would do it. I can tell you things that will help, but that's not the goal. Alex and I love sharing with you the most unsexy, ridiculous sounding shit that's actually going to help get you there, because that's what I want. I would rather you just take all the stuff. Like, I need people to support me because I got family and stuff that I got to support and be able to do that. But like, the amount of stuff that we put out that's literally free that I know can help you on your journey is absurd. Like, if you listen to our podcast, you followed Alex and I on social media, and you just implemented the things that we talk about, it would radically change your life. You could be like a
Yep.
lot of people that finally were like, you know what, I'm gonna listen to this dude, and I'm gonna try this, or you know what, I'm gonna follow what she talked about on this post. And they're like, oh my gosh, I haven't, I think I've talked about her on multiple episodes. Mel, which I hope she listens to this, she got my book, and chapter number 3, cold exposure, one of my favorite chapters that we talk about, dove into all that. She was like, I'm going to do it, and started doing cold showers and got a little bit of change. So what does she do? She was like, F it. She went and bought the horse trough thing like I have. She put it in her garage. She fills it with water and ice. She's on day 42 or 43 now of doing cold plunges every single day. She has gotten off her daily migraine medication. She's had no injections, and I think she's been pretty migraine free here recently. But she went from, I think it was 25 migraine days she went from 25 migraine days, I think it was 2025, down to 5 in the
Hmm.
first 30 days of her doing this.
Yep.
It was cold exposure, and she bought a $15 book. Like, that was it. You spent thousands and thousands of dollars and wasted a lot of money and time and all this stuff. And it was like, that's the thing. It's a simple little thing. She was just willing to do, again, the thing that's the hang up is the uncomfortability of doing that. Me telling you that is easy, but the actual implementation and discipline of her going, I'm doing this every day, whether I want to or not, is the thing that changed everything. Like, on the Super Bowl, she went to a friend of hers house who has one of the cold plunges, and like did a cold plunge at his house during like halftime or whatever it was during the Super Bowl. Like, hey, no matter what, I'm not missing this because I'm committed to doing it, because I know it's helping me on the journey of where I'm trying to go.
I like that. I love I'm writing down a content idea.
Love it.
How to discern good advice from bad advice.
Which I
Good
think is
medical
kind of what
advice
we
and
got
bad
into.
advice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that would be a good episode. Because it is like, I love the analogy you used of, this person, I'm riding a bike, but then this one got me taught me how to ride a motorcycle, and then this one taught me how to ride a car, like drive a car. And I love that because, like you said, the only real loss, or I guess, even, I don't want to say bad, but just poor decision making, is to not take a step and just stay right where we are. But if we're taking an action, we're always going to, and that's the mindset, right? We're always going to learn something. Even if that thing we learn is, that sucked. Never doing that again. Never doing that again, right? And then along that road too, I think of all these shiny objects like you're talking about is just like giant billboards. Somebody holding like a giant billboard like, "Hey, exit here for, exit here for this pill that will make you feel X, Y, and Z," or whatever the case.
Mhm.
And how many of us go, "Er," and we take that exit and we try that thing, right?
Or hey,
When the path
secondary route will cut 2 hours off of here, and you're like, well, that makes sense. And it's like, yeah, but it's on a 2 lane thing, and everybody took it, and now it's backed up, and the
right,
highway's fine. Like, what are
right.
we talking about?
Uh-huh, right. And or like you're on a bike and it turns out you actually need a car to go take the thing. Like
Well, yeah,
and so
because
we
you
have
have to
this.
power that versus somebody helping you.
Yeah, and so we have this path laid out, but how many shiny objects do we see? And then I was thinking like cryotherapy. Hey, try cryotherapy. It'll blah blah blah, right? And I think
So you do it
the
once.
diff. Well, here's what I'm gonna say. I think the difference here is what cryotherapy does, and I think what amplifiers are, if we're gonna use that term, they're they're all ways to help your natural systems that we already have,
Hmm.
right? Right? It's nature. It's not something like I'm taking a bunch of supplements because I'm not eating whole foods,
Right.
Like
We do have that mindset, though.
we do. And we think because it's quote unquote natural, like I'm just taking a whole bunch of magnesium pills because I'm, not getting enough micronutrients in my
Oh yeah.
diet.
Or I'm dropping melatonin because I can't sleep.
Right. And versus I'm just waking up and making sure I like walk outside. Right? Like these sorts of things. And
Yes.
so and so I think that's good advice, and these amplifiers that we talk about on the podcast are also billboards, but they're designed to help you along this route, not to make you go the wrong way and take a bunch more time to get where you wanna go, but they're gonna amplify it, right? Whether that means you don't have to do the journey anymore by yourself, you get a buddy.
So then I think the key in where we land this is discernment, because there will be a lot of things along the way. And guess what? Some of them are to help you and some of them are to distract you. And so we have to
Mhm.
make sure that we're discerning and knowing where that's coming from to know. No, when people come in, they don't necessarily trust me right off the bat. They might because they've looked at some of my stuff and they see what people say and they do some of that. Like, you have to build up your credibility, but it's like that's what it takes to overcome. But like if you get that feeling of like, something feels off here, which I've had only a few times. My wife is very gifted in this. When my wife tells me like, those are not good people, this is this, whatever, I'm like, okay. And I just listen to her and I'm like, it served me well many, many, many times because of that. So we have to
Mhm.
have that level of discernment when it comes to that. But we also have to have a level of discipline when we finally decide we are going down that cryotherapy route. This is again one of my big sticklers is like, don't just do it once and don't just do it for a week and tell me it didn't work. Let's stick with it consistently and then tell me
Mm.
that it didn't happen. Because if it doesn't, cool, I'll never tell you to do it again. But that hasn't
Mhm.
happened yet. So I'm going to keep telling you to do it.
Right, and I think that's the pursuit of wholeness over perfection, right? Like, yes, we need the discipline to do it repeatedly, but we also need the pursuit of wholeness where it may not perfectly alleviate, migraines. Maybe what it does is give us energy, it helps us think clearer, and it helps us sleep better, which
It's
gives us the
actually
which gives
meant.
us the energy to do other things that will help us reduce our migraines,
Mhm.
right? Like this is an ecosystem. This is not a silver bullet. There's lots of things we need to be doing in order to be on this path, this good trajectory to get us to our goal, knowing we're also not ever going to arrive to this place of just picture perfect perfection.
Yep. And again, to be honest with you, the way that I had it is cold exposure migraine. Like, hey, cold exposure helps with this. But what's hidden on the backside of that is that it's going to heal your nervous system, which I know eventually over time is going to get you there. It's
Yep.
not that that's necessarily correlated. It's that migraine is correlated to nervous system, and this is correlated to healing it. So when we do that, we get indirectly those changes because of that.
Yep.
So okay, we've rambled on enough, and I've got already a we're getting ready to record multiple episodes, and I got a fun one for you. We can start the next episode off with that.
Okay. Okay, so we'll in there. So know that stress, your ability to adapt to your stress management. I don't like the term management, but how well you're adapting your stress is what is creating symptoms and signs in your body. Know that we need to have goals, but we're also not ever going to arrive. So we've got to be open and flexible on that journey. And then point number 3 was we need to be in the pursuit of wholeness and integrity with ourselves and our decision making and discerning if we're doing the right thing for us, regardless of how that looks, knowing nothing will ever be perfect, but we can enjoy the journey along the way versus only doing something for the outcome.
Yep. Run the race, but don't worry about the destination. If you have to walk, walk. If you get to run, run. If you get something like
If you get
know
an
that, but just
airplane,
keep doing it. Yep.
take the
That's right.
airplane. All right. Thanks, guys.
Okay, we love you. Bye.